Hello, my name is Ben and welcome to Field and Foley. Today's guest is Oliver Menadue, a UK-based sound artist and the creator behind the YouTube channel Rare Finds Sound Design. Ollie takes viewers along on his field recording adventures, capturing the world one sound at a time. From birdsong with his self-built parabolic mic to the textures of everyday environments. He also crafts those sounds into sound effect packs, sharing his passion for sonic exploration with the broader creative community. So, hi Ollie and welcome to the show.
Yeah, all right, cheers for having me on.
My first question I have, because I just stumbled upon your YouTube channel by accident and really liked your calm style and just also leaving room for just the sounds for a few minutes and really getting to know the soundscape that you recorded. What made you start your YouTube channel? Because it's not the first thing I think about when I think about going field recording is recording that stuff, because it's a lot of work attached to it, right?
I think I started my YouTube channel. I did actually have a different name on YouTube before that. It was Menadue, but spelt like the old Cornish name. So it means like dark hill or black rock in Cornish. And you can sort of see that still in my updated logo now. Nice. For Rare Finds. So yeah, it sort of started as a creative outlet for my music, the things I was starting to do in university. So I basically went uni with the intention of being a session drummer. And then it sort of evolved into doing more electronic things and messing around with electronic music. And then I was like, I want to get some cool samples, but I don't really want to use samples that everyone else has. So then I tested out some microphones and some portable recorders in the university rental thing, and yeah, sort of went from there and snowballed into Rare Finds Sound Design, and it's just been creating different things from there on.
Yeah, that is I'm guessing the origin story of many recorders. It's I need some samples and I want something special. But what do you then specifically do the field recording? Because a lot of the people that I talk with about sound design, they are recording in their studio, some kind of impact, snaps, whatever. But going out into especially the wilderness, I would say, or very nice natural places where you drive a couple of hours or something to find something specific, that's a different draw, I would say, because it's a very solitude thing and it's a very calming experience and it's not for everyone. So I'd like to know, it's what drew you to this part of it?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned recording in the studio, because I was working in a studio in Bristol in the UK for a company called Radium Audio for just over 5 years, I think it was. And that was recording lots of sound effects in the studio, building different instrument things to make other weird sounds. And I think the field recording stemmed from being in the studio so much that when I left to do some traveling in Australia, I was like, I've got loads of time to just explore and do lots of hiking, because I'm quite an outdoorsy kind of person. And it sort of just mixed the two practices together. And I was like, I could do all these sound effects things, but also outside in the sun and in the rain as well in the UK. But I think it was just a mix of everything, and maybe I'll go back into the studio more when I have more of a studio set up. But at the moment, I'm just really enjoying being able to get outside and explore the nature areas around where I live, and just dive into that and have a go more doing more field recording, because I just really enjoy being outside and just chilling. It's a nice way for me to relax, even though I'm not relaxing trying to record sounds. It's one of the only times I can actually just sit still I think that's the thing I find. It's just a good way for a little bit of mindfulness.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same for me too. Like I was just mentioning before we started to talk that I was on a recording trip on the weekend, and I've scouted out like different rooms and places I wanted to record, and I knew like I had to leave the recorder there for like 15 minutes and like go away from it, so I had time to just sit there. I mean, I had people with me, so we had a chat, but it was just nice time in nature, and it was kind of like, yeah, you were kind of forced to wait there. So you're not in a hurry anyway, and that I think that really shows also in your mind. Then I was very very like exhausted, but also very very happy after coming home, and I think the glow is gonna hold over for a few days at least. So I can really appreciate that as well. Yeah, and what I also saw was that you built your own parabolic microphone, which was interesting to see. And I wanted to know, except for the things you show in the video, what was the process like? Is it something where you just started to throw things together because you wanted to do it, or did you do a lot of research and really plan it out? What was your process there?
So the main dish I didn't actually build, but I do want to build everything from scratch at some point. Someone even mentioned in that video to do one with a wok, and I'm like, actually, that might be quite fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw Ezra from Ochre Instruments, who I mentioned a bit earlier on before the call. He had used the same parabolic dish with one of his microphones, and I thought, oh, that's quite fun, because I had to go with one of those dishes at uni years ago, and I haven't really played around with them since. So I thought, there's lots of birds around where I live, there's lots of nature areas, so I thought, well, let's give a parabolic dish a go. And then I found this one online from Innercore, and yeah, I just customized it a little bit, popped the Lom Ushi Pro mic on it, and yeah, just went out into the wild and explored a bit with it. And yeah, sorry, I've forgotten the question.
No problem. No, I just wanted to ask if there was any plan, and did anything go wrong, or was it just like, okay, I'm just gonna plop this microphone in and it all just magically happened and worked like you expected it to?
Nah, lots went wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing we want to hear, because that's
it's a
what
classic.
you don't see in the videos most of the time.
So I drilled a hole in the dish so I could get the microphone through. Initially, I was going to do a smaller hole so you could just get the cable through, but I didn't want to have a microphone always stuck on there because I knew I would have had to resolder the cable, and I only have one of those cables for the Ushi Pros because they're quite specific. They have the circuitry inside the Neutrik XLR end. So I drilled the hole bigger, and then when I took it out for its first run, I was like, there's a whistling sound. It's probably from the hole. But yeah, I just put some gaff tape over it and it was fine. But there's other things that I've noticed, like I was doing some recordings at the beach with the dish, and it's just like holding a massive sail. As soon as there's a gust of wind, It's quite obvious now, but as soon as there's a gust of wind, the whole thing tries to take off. So it's quite a specific rig, and you can only really use it in certain environments. Windy environments is just a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
But it's a fun one to play around with, and because the dish is pretty affordable, they even do sell microphones on the website as well. So I think that would probably come in at just over £100 or £120, which is pretty good for a dish and microphone setup. And with a cheap recorder, I reckon you could probably get that one on eBay. About 200 quid, you can probably do a decent setup and go out and do some recordings for yourself. So I do urge people just to have a go or have a play, or even rent some of the stuff out. There's lots of rental places where you can do it on the cheap as well, and you'll probably be able to get better equipment for cheaper if you rent it. But yeah, there's quite a few different things that went well and went wrong. I like to try and put that in my videos as well, as best as I can. I don't want it to be too boring, but I think sometimes when it does go wrong, it's quite fun to watch.
Absolutely, yeah. You also have like a video online that's called something like that you failed, but it's all right. And I really like that kind
Mm.
of concentrating on, okay, this was what was planned, and it didn't work out as I thought it was, but this is what I did. And um, we've had this in the podcast before, the ability to cope with, I would say, failure in air quotes, because it's not really failure. It's just
Mm.
unexpected things that happen, and they can happen all the time, especially in field recording. You go out, just like you said, maybe it's rain, maybe you have a lot of air traffic, and then or a lot of wind, for example, and then you find out, okay, but I can record these really cool wind howls or these whistles through this old
Mm.
building or stuff like that. So the ability to adapt to that and to expect and react to failure is, I think, very important, because yeah, we see that a lot. I mean, Instagram is known for that, but I mean, every social media is that people are just showing their best things and like the end result. But I'm feeling in the last couple of years, especially in the maker scene, also people have really leaned into, hey, look how hard this was to do, and this is all the things that went
Mm.
wrong, and this is what I initially planned, and it didn't turn out that way, but look at this. That's also pretty cool, right? And liking the process. So yeah, I really think that's a good way of doing it, of leaning a bit more
Mm.
into, okay, that was the journey, and not just that was the result. Um,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
that's a big thing, a big part of field recording and doing sound, because I do some work doing sound on set
yeah,
with Boompole, location sound things. And whenever I've been on set, I think it's best to be as adaptable as you can be, because things, you can plan for everything, but then something will change. You'll be like, uh-oh, I've got to do something completely different now.
yeah,
So I think it's quite good. The main thing is just to practice behind the scenes, and then when it does come to, I think I mentioned it in that video as well, when it does come to whatever happens, you will be a bit more prepared, and you'll know, this didn't work, but I can just quickly do this, which does work.
yeah.
um, yeah, and being prepared is probably the best advice I can give. Actually, the other day I went out to try and do some beach field recording, and I wasn't prepared enough, and my feet got soaking wet, and then I was having to drive around barefoot because I was like, my shoes
Yeah,
are soaked now,
been
and
there.
then I've got the rest of the day. Yeah, I forgot to take a spare pair of shoes. I was like,
Yeah,
I was hours away from home, so I was like, I guess I'm barefoot today.
yeah.
Yeah,
Very true, and
it's just one
grounded
of
to
those.
nature then.
Yeah.
No, but I know exactly that. So now I have a spare pair of socks at least, so I can warm up my feet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I think that's the thing that you also said, that you mentioned, like this prepare at home for what could happen, um, and then that's fine, and then also accept, like, if you are not prepared, because there's always something that can happen that you have no idea, no control over,
Mm.
and just getting to love that kind of process. That's I think it's very important, because when I speak with people, it's like, yeah, you do sound design, and what's like hard things to record, and I mentioned, for example, yeah, wind recordings, and they're like, what? It's like, it's easy. It's just wind. You go out and record them, but then you're like, yeah, but try to record wind so it doesn't sound like a microphone that's shit, or like a broken, I don't know,
Mm.
mobile phone.
Yeah.
Like, just getting a special kind of wind, and then what kind of wind is it? Do you have, for example, a scene in a fantasy kind of setting where there's no trees? So what does do the sound, right? So maybe you just need
Mm.
a high-pitched whistling or something, or there's so much nuance to wind alone, and trying to record wind is, oof, I feel it's very hard. But also because
Mm.
I haven't spent too much time on it. At some point, I just shelled out for a good library, so now I have a lot of without
Mm.
trees wind, which I can use.
Mm.
But yeah, whenever a new project comes up with something like wind, I'm trying to find a new way of recording something unique there, and it's crazy how sometimes the most mundane things are very hard to record.
Yeah, 100%.
What has been one of your most surprising or unexpected field recording moments so far?
Hmm. Um, I really like playing around with slightly more experimental mics, so like contact mics or hydrophones, because I always get an idea of what something will sound like in my head, and then I either put it on like the subject or the thing that I'm trying to record, and it either sounds better than I thought or really, really shit. so it's just one way or the other. I had it recently. I did just release a video doing some wood creeks and things like that with some trees up on Dartmoor National Park, which is quite close to me. It's got loads of ancient woodlands up there, little pockets of woodland that I've been trying to explore, because there isn't actually much of the UK covered by this old ancient woodland anymore. So I really wanted to explore all these places and record them and document them. So one of the things I was doing was going around with this contact mic and putting it on the trees and just listening to what they sound like in the wind, or if I sort of bend the branches, get them to creak. And yeah, some of them sound awesome, some of them sound rubbish, but I find it's just, yes, the unknown, which I quite like when I'm trying to do something, and yeah, I get surprised. I'm trying to think of another one that I've done that has surprised me or gone, wow, that's sick. Oh, actually, the Portland, I was telling you before the podcast started, I was recording there. This is a little sneak peek, unless I've already put the video up.
Pretty sure it's already going to be out. I mean, this is going to be out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how long it'll take me to edit.
Okay,
but,
it's a competition now.
Yeah. Yeah, there was this cool old artillery battery, and it's this Victorian artillery battery, high angle artillery battery. So they used to fire, well, they built it so they could fire shells over and then onto ships potentially coming to invade the UK. And it had these cool areas where they would store the artillery shells and these other different things, and the reverb in there was so sick. And you get some really cool flangey effects depending where you were stood in the room. And that for some reason there were these big rocks in there, so I was just kicking them around, recording impulse responses and things like that. It was something that I wasn't expecting to stumble across, and I think that's another good thing about field recording and hiking around. I just wander around aimlessly sometimes. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I end up just sitting there recording for hours.
I agree with that, yeah. I remember the first time I've realized that I got into a really part of the forest where you have a forest reverb. And like, I've heard the term before, and I've used like a forest reverb on my DAW before, but I didn't realize that there are places where like actually the trees and the wind is right, so that you just get an echo back from these trees. And it's this kind of weird, eerie thing where you think like, okay, I can really imagine like many 100 or 1,000 years ago, people believing in ghosts or spirits, because you go into these woods and suddenly like the sonic feeling changes completely, and the forest kind of answers you and stuff like that. So these kinds of things are always amazing to me. And of course, unfortunately, I didn't have a recorder with me back then, so I did get to the same place again, but the wind conditions or humidity, whatever, it wasn't right, so it didn't sound good. But yeah, these kinds of like happy accidents are just amazing. And yeah, and also with like the different microphones, just like you said, I'm really into experimenting a bit, and now I'm trying this year to build a lot of stuff myself and try to find out if I can build something cool myself. So because I already have some, I just holding that up to the camera. It's like it's called a copper phone that is built like the old 50s microphones. So it sounds like the 50s, but it has a high quality. So you get a really high quality noise-free recording, but it sounds like from the 50s, and it's so weird because it's like a ultra rare preserved record from that time. So all these kinds of, I don't know, many different things of recording are very interesting to see what you can get from that. And ultrasonic is another thing that I'd like to get into at some point, but that's a whole another can of worms, because those are usually very expensive. But yeah, the recordings are amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to do some more ultrasonic stuff. We did have a microphone at my old job that I was working at, and I think it was the Sanken CO 100K. Yeah, I'd love one of them, because they'd be so fun to record with. Yeah, there's all sorts of things I'd like to record with that. Pop it inside a blimp, maybe with the MS rig, if I can carry all that one-handed and make it sound good. But yeah, I'd love to do some animal recordings and different things like that with a ultrasonic microphone. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that indeed is a lot of fun. Like at least the recordings I've heard so far are so cool. Like when they are really good and when they are, I would say, noise free, which is interesting because I've heard that with the ultrasonic ones, if you record in like just a little bit of reverb and then you like pitch down stuff, then everything gets just like very muddy and very noisy because of course that's all gonna be extrapolated. And it's interesting to see how, I don't know, how to create something new with that kind of sounds. Yeah, and speaking of locations, do you have so far like a favorite location or environment for field recording that you like really say like this is my kind of thing?
I think I have found myself drawn to anywhere with water, but I think that's just a byproduct of being anywhere with a nice bit of nature that it usually has running water. So I do find myself going to like rivers, streams, or the beach. But I also think another part of that is the sound of the running water covers the sound of maybe human sounds. So like waterfalls and different things like that, I can end up doing longer recording sessions because I can't hear a plane going over or something else ruining the take. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of recordings up on Dartmoor National Park in the UK. So that's in the southwest of the UK. Nice. And yeah, it's got some cool spots up there. Like I mentioned earlier with the ancient woodlands. I've just been trying to sign all of them off the list because I know where a lot of the places are, but I've never joined up all the routes through my hikes. And yeah, I think that's probably one of the coolest places. I did go to New Zealand, it's almost 2 years ago now, I think, but that had some really cool spots to record. And in Australia, that was really cool for recording. To be honest, I don't have a favourite. I just want to explore as much as I can with the recorders and just record everything, pretty much.
Yeah, that's a totally valid answer, and I can relate to the running water because it's always also a favorite of mine, and I think because it's kind of calming. Maybe it's because like water is life, right? You need water to settle and to make to survive. So maybe it's ingrained in our brains that if you have running water, that it's calming you. But yes, like for me right now, the one location that I've been to on Sunday, this abandoned mine shaft is my current favorite, but for me it always changes. Like it's also like I really love going out into nature, but this kind of place has this one room in there where you come around the corner and it's suddenly from a very dry sound because it's all rock, right? So inside you have no planes, you have no birds, you have nothing. Like if you sit still and you turn off the light, it's absolutely pitch black dark and you hear nothing except for little drips here and there, and this is wonderful. But then you come around this one corner where there's a cave, and there's many different size of caves, but there's this one cave which has a little lake inside, which is very shallow, and a little island on top, and the reverb in there is so specific and so amazing that you hear your footsteps suddenly getting an echo, and then you say something to your mates, and then you hear the reverb back, and your hair stands back up, right? And it's just my favorite place to record right now. I've been there like 3 times now, and I've been lucky enough that my cousin, who's also my guide, who showed me the place, is a decent singer, so he just started singing in there, and it's just, we recorded some singing with guitar and everything in there, and it has been so much fun. And so this kind of, I don't know, this kind of isolated space where it's whatever sound you make or whatever sound is there is very, very amplified because you don't have anything else. And that's what I really like, this kind of silence, this natural silence. That's amazing. Yeah. So I can really, really recommend going into caves if you have any caves. But of course with people that have experience, so be safe. But caving and recording in caves is really cool. Yeah, and maybe
find some caves now.
Speaking about advice, do you have any advice to give someone just starting out with field recording? Like we've been on the show before, we've had this topic on the show before, and the most things that came up is of course like calculate with failure, like expect things to go wrong. That's all part of the process, and also just take whatever you get and record with the cheapest equipment you have. That's totally fine. Just the art of recording is what you should start with. But maybe you have something else as well, maybe on top.
I think a boring one, but it's also essential, is slating your recordings, just so you know what it is. Because I've listened to recordings when I first started doing recording, and obviously I haven't named the file correctly. I don't know what I recorded, and it's just a noise. But basically, slating is you say at the start of the recording or at the end what you're recording, what microphone you're using, where you are, and sometimes which side is left, which side is right. Any information that will help you further down the line. I think that's one of the most important things I've been trying to do constantly, is just make it easy for my future self or whoever ends up with the files. Because when I was working with a team of people, I might record something and then someone else might be designing with the file. If I've given them lots of information for the recording, then it makes it way easier for them to edit or do anything with the file. So yeah, just be kind of strict at the start. So it only takes like 10 to 30 seconds just saying, this is recording a lapping stream going from right to left on the Zoom H1, really close to the ground at about knee height. Something like that makes it so much easier for you to add in information afterwards, and you know what the hell it is that you're listening to. I think that's one of the big things. And then another big one is recording in public, especially in places like cities. When I've done recordings there, I try and think of it more as a little bit like street photography, where you can either go super stealth so no one knows you're doing it, or be really obvious so then everyone knows you're doing it. If you go somewhere in the middle, it makes everyone feel awkward and weird, because they're like, I don't really know what that person's doing over there. So yeah, I tend to go one of two ways. So it's super stealth or super obvious. And then I end up getting the best out of the recording. So if I wanted to be really obvious, I'd take like a pretty big rig, a tripod, plonk it right in the middle and just stand there with my headphones on. And then everyone can see what I'm doing. And then they probably have a glance and go, I don't really care about what that guy's doing. That's usually what happens. And then for a stealth setup, I might have something like the Ushi Pros or the Oka Instruments mics, or little omnidirectional mics, clip them to a backpack, and then just stand there with small headphones in. And then I can monitor the recording, but no one really knows I'm doing a recording. So I think those are probably my two main ones. And just practice is probably the other thing. It's another classic, but yeah, just practice. It makes you so much better, and just exploring with the microphone, just going around, say you're in a city or something like that, just practicing with different heights of like the proximity from the ground, or if you're recording at head height, it sounds completely different to if you're holding the recorder by your waist. Those sort of things, just playing around with where to put the recorder, because like I was saying before, all the prep makes it better for if something does pop up, you're like, oh, that's a really cool car that's coming past in the city. I've got to quickly do that. I know the best spot to record it, that sort of thing. I think that's my best tips.
Yeah, those are good, and especially the slating. It's funny that you mentioned that, because the first time I was in that mineshaft, I didn't slate at all. I just recorded different rooms. So, of course, they were all like caves with dripping noises, right? And I thought I was being clever by making photographs of the locations. But because we were going back and forth and I was like retaking stuff, the order of the photos didn't really match the order of the recording. So I was stuck at home, like trying to match these two, maybe with timestamps at some point. It's like, okay, at this time we were there, and it was just horrible. So this time I did both. Like every time I said a little thing at the beginning, I knew which. What I always do normally is, now I have the F8 recorder, the Zoom recorder, so I have 8 inputs. So I have, for example, if I'm doing ambisonics recording, I use the first 4. So I always know inputs 1 to 4 are ambisonics, inputs 5, 6 are LOM, stereo, and then if I have some, I don't know, contact mic or a boom mic, I use the other two. And I keep just the inputs consistent beforehand, and then just write that down. So afterwards, like all the track numbers are always the same. But yeah, saying it out loud is, of course, especially if you just have a recorder with less inputs and you keep switching microphones, is a really, really good tip. Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't had this on the show yet. So yeah, thanks to you.
Yeah, well, I think it's trial by error from me. But it's definitely something that makes it so much easier. And like you're saying, if you are changing out mics, so I'm using the Zoom F6 quite a lot, and a lot of the time the mic's just going whatever input is free. So I would have to list it off at the start of the recording, maybe, because I record in MS quite a bit mid-side. It just makes it easier for me later down the line, because I might be listening to it and going, why does this sound so weird? Because it's not been decoded.
Yeah.
So it's just things, like that. I think that's a really big thing to be able to just... I sort of get a bit carried away with trying to date everything correctly and keep everything in order when I'm transferring files, and the computers that I have all are exactly the same as the other one. All the files are in the same spot, so just so I know where everything is, because I just want to have a nice big easy to find catalogue of sounds. And that's another thing with the slating. When you do a verbal slate of the recording, you can sort of get away with not naming the file straight away. You can put it on your computer, back it up, and then a little bit later down the line, you can just press spacebar, and right at the start of the file, it goes, this is recording with the Zoom F6 with the mid-side rig I'm using. Say, for example, I'm using these new Radius Mini Auto blimps. I've got the Mini Auto 115, because sometimes I might have a bigger one. So just knowing what wind protection as well that you got on there. Anything to make it easier for people who, if you're selling the sounds, it gives people more of an idea of what's gone into the recording. And then you can add it into the description of the metadata, things like that. It's going a bit in depth for someone first starting, but honestly, it'll make your life so much easier later down the line.
Yeah, and especially like you mentioned with experimenting, like if you have then, I use this wind protection or this position, and then if you have a recording that sounds really good or really bad, you can see what maybe went wrong or what to try next time, because you're not going to remember all that kind of positions and protections and whatever you used a few months down the road, of course. And you mentioned mid-side recording, and I just realized we haven't talked about this on the show yet, because I always try to explain as much as I can to people that are listening that are not in sound, and there are a few of them that are just interested in it. So maybe you can, if you don't mind, if I don't put you on the spot, quickly explain what mid-side recording is and why it sometimes sounds shitty if you just listen to it.
So mid-side recording, this is going to test me. I usually read it off a script, but mid-side recording is basically made up of two different microphones. One microphone is quite often a cardioid microphone, and that one will be on the top. And then the second microphone is a figure of 8 microphone, which would be on the bottom. So usually a cardioid microphone picks up sound from the front, and a figure of 8 microphone picks up sound from the front and the back. But with this setup, you have to tilt the figure of 8 microphone forwards and then twist it on its axis 90 degrees. So instead of it picking up sounds from front and back, it then picks up sounds from left and right. So when it's underneath the cardioid microphone, which is on the top, the cardioid microphone is pointing to the front, picking up sounds from the front, and then the figure of 8 microphone is picking up sounds from the side. And then you can use a decoder on your software, or you can duplicate the figure of 8 channel, pan one to the left, one to the right, and invert the phase of one of them. Yeah, I usually just use a decoder. There's a free one called MSED by Voxengo, which I use just for MS. And then that decodes the sound into a stereo signal, so a signal which would sound normal to you pretty much. And then with the mid-side, you can increase the figure of 8 microphone, so increase or decrease the side gain. so you can make it sound wider or narrower. So I really like using it for sound effects because it's just ideal. If there's some sounds which are slightly off center, you can get away with adjusting it in your decoder so it sounds more in the center, or you can use something like boom recenter to recenter the sounds so it sounds like you picked it up in the right spot.
Yeah.
But then with the side gain, you can increase or decrease it. So say, for example, I was recording some impact sounds and the reverb that I had didn't really fit it that nice with the side mics. I could just change the sound into a mono recording and then just use that.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite flexible sort of system. Hopefully I explained mid-side
Yeah,
well
I think
enough for everyone
I think
there.
it was pretty good. Yeah, and that's also what I like the ability to then, just like you said, maybe make a mono sound out of it, but not just record with just a boom mic mono something, but have something where it's like, oh, this reverb is amazing, so I maybe turn up the mid side and have it more full, or just like you said, more wide. And this, what I really like also, is doing that with, like, not with a mid-side rig, but what I did now on the weekend was I had a shotgun microphone pointing at the guy with the guitar singing, so it was center on, and the Lom Uzi in a XY pattern just left and right to it. So essentially picking up also the sound, but not like pointing away from the person left and right, so picking up more of the reverb. And now I could use like the center microphone to really do something to the voice, maybe like adjust it a bit, because there was almost no reverb in the middle lane, and the other one was just the feeling of the room, to say it in a non-technical term. So I could turn it up
Yeah.
or down, and this gives a lot of flexibility. So using like 3 microphones or something, that is like, in the beginning I didn't understand it at all, because I thought that like the side microphones only they didn't capture the sound, but after a while I understood the flexibility and the kind of artistic merit also you can get out of it, because you can also like play around a lot with that. You can move them farther away, you can have them all like very close together, and just like you said, it goes back to experiment what kind of setup works with your microphones and with what you want to record, and then slate it so you know later on what you did there, right? Yeah. That is
I
cool.
think that's
Yeah.
another cool thing as well to touch on, which is like just experiment with stuff, because if it doesn't seem like the right way to do something, it still might sound cool. So some of my earlier experiments, when I didn't really know what I was supposed to do with the microphone, say it's out of phase or something sounds, it would be technically wrong what I was doing, it did create some cool sounds. So I think it's just more listen to what's being recorded, because even if you're doing something completely wrong, like the setup's completely wrong, it's something that you wouldn't think of doing, but the sound is cool, then it doesn't matter. I think that's the main thing. It's like, just make cool stuff, because there's things like, I remember there was this massive speaker that I was playing around with and just creating some crazy feedback loops with microphones. It's like, that's something that you probably wouldn't want to do, but it creates some really cool source material for some other weird sound effects and things like that. So it's just playing around with odd ways to use your microphones, not necessarily destroying them, but just trying to make cool sounds out of stuff. I think that's my main thing. I just love experimenting and just really like trying to learn new things and being open that I don't know everything about everything. So it's just being open and honest, saying, this is what I know. Can someone else put in input on how to do a certain other thing, if that makes some sort of sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, just like you said, there is no like wrong way of recording things. If it sounds good, it sounds good. And even if you think it sounds shit, I can point to so many instances where I found like this old recording, which was, I don't know, with my first H4 recorder and a very shitty recording, but it had a certain kind of texture, and I could mix it in with other stuff, and it gave it this unique flavor. So no recording is per se shit. I mean, even if you botched it up, you can find some use for it, to either use it as a texture or to use it as a, I don't know, So many creative ways. If in doubt, just granular synthesize everything. And make some crazy
Yeah.
sounds out of that. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and do you have any like dream recording project or environment that you'd love to capture someday?
I suppose some ridiculous ones would be things like an avalanche, not natural disasters per se, because that sounds wrong. But yeah, maybe like an avalanche or earthquake things. But those are things that you can't really plan for, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I'd love to do more recordings of like cars and planes and jets and all those sort of things. I love doing nature recordings. I'm sort of like juxtapose myself all the time where I'm like, oh, a goddamn plane, but I'd love to record inside a plane and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I just want to just record everything. And I really like, my mate Seems always used to take the mick out of me for documenting all the time because I love archiving sounds and just capturing recordings from a certain time or place. It probably won't ever be a recording that will get uploaded anywhere. It's just like archiving sounds that maybe in 20 years I can listen back to it and go, oh, cool, that was so-and-so's birthday at this certain pub or something like that. It's just, I find it's a cool way to just document life through recordings, and maybe no one else will find it interesting, but I'll probably love it when I'm 40 years down the line. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I love that I've got this. Maybe people aren't around anymore and things like that. So I think that's really important to me, just recording sounds and documenting stuff, because it's like a photo and it's like a video, but it's just a different way, well, hearing something or documenting something. So I haven't really got any plans on what I want to record, but it's sort of open to everything.
That's a good way of going on it. Yeah. And I agree with you, like the archiving of stuff, when you listen to some recordings of a party or whatever, or some event that you went to, or even like, just like I said, like a nature hike where there was this specific wind or this reverb, it triggers something in us. And I think it's just like a photo album. And I'm guessing, at least for us recorders, we'll like show our kids some kind of recordings from, hey, this was then and this mountain doesn't exist anymore, or I don't know, this park is now something else. That's a good way of doing things, I think. Yeah, for me still, the dream recording project would be having a microphone inside a rocket, because I would really, really love to have, especially like a contact microphone on the hull from the inside, and some, I don't know, just a stereo rig or something. Nothing big, but if ever I get the chance to put something into a rocket, that would be amazing, because I would love to hear how it sounds from the inside, because we have so many good recordings from outside, from starting rockets and from like filling up and from the fire. There's a lot of good stuff, but the inside, of course, is always like, it's limited space, limited weight. So you have these communication systems who, of course, are tuned to voice, so they sound horrible. So all the recordings from inside spacecrafts sound horrible. So that would be my dream thing. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
I mean, a jet is almost there, right? And you mentioned a plane. I'm also looking to find maybe someone who's a hobby pilot to take me on a trip at some point in my local little airport. Like, and it's just a small aircraft, and that's something I've planned. I'm trying to reach out to people, so I can really relate with that as well, because I'm always also on the ground, like angry about the plane noise, but also getting something from inside the plane, the taking off, and like maybe the landing gear coming in. I think if we can record that really in a high quality fashion, that could be really interesting.
Yeah, that would be sick. There's a location in Wales in the UK called Mac Loop. It's near Snowdonia, and it's like a low fly zone for the military where they can test flying through this valley, which I've been meaning to go up and record for ages. And every year I forget to go up there. So it's kind of random when they do fly through, and you don't really know what planes are going to come through. But you can walk up either side of this valley, and the planes fly sort of below where you're standing.
Oh, nice.
So I've been meaning to go there because there's loads of photographers who go there and take photographs. There's a Facebook group called MacLoop Open Forum, I think, or something like that, where loads of people have uploaded photographs of the planes going through, and you see all the pilots just giving thumbs up on the on the zoom lenses when they're taking photos. So I really want to try and organise a trip up there, hopefully this year, to go and record some of those planes. But it's kind of random. It's weather dependent, so it's a long old drive for me to get up there and nothing flies through. Because I had that once before, and I was like, oh, that's a bit of a waste.
Yeah, indeed. And you have to like keep your distance to the photographers, otherwise you have all those clicks on your recordings.
Yeah. I didn't message on that group. I was like, where can I stand which is away from all of you?
Yes. I don't need to see good, it just has to sound good.
Yeah. So there's a couple of little spots. So if I do go up there, I'll probably do a video of that.
Awesome.
As well.
Yeah.
Trying to record the jets.
Yeah. I think I've seen those pictures before, which are really crazy. It looks like like very low to the ground. Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. And one question I have that I always ask my guests is, what is the first sound you ever recorded, and why did you record it? Putting you on the spot.
A portable recorder or any recorder?
What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Because,
I guess... Oh, actually, I was going through one of my old secondary school hard drives, and I found a track that I made in A2 level music tech. So that's, I think I would have been 16. And it's this one, I guess it's probably the first time I used a portable recorder properly. It was one of the first Zoom H4s, a really, really old one. I think it was all silver. And I made this track. It was really quick because I was so late on doing the coursework. So I think this was done in like a couple of days. And yeah, it's just this track that I recorded in my parents' house, and I made a song out of everything in the kitchen.
Nice.
So it was like slamming the dishwasher, opening the cutlery drawer, slamming the oven, things like that. So I guess that was probably my first entry into field recording, creating my own samples, which I don't think I ever really realized that was the first one. I've still got that track, so I'll send you that.
Awesome. Yeah,
you can hear a little bit of that. It's quite funny hearing it.
If you want to share it for the episode, we can put it in the outro. That's awesome.
Yeah, pop it in. Awesome. Of all the things I'm going to share.
Yeah. You can use something that you're very proud of for the intro, and then we get that for the outro. That's fine, right? You have the range of recordings, you know. Yeah, and just for the future, like any shout outs, any upcoming things that you're working on that you're proud of, that you're going to release, or any project that you can talk about.
There's a couple of projects, but I can't say anything about them. They might be on my Instagram or YouTube. Once they're uploaded, I probably would have shared stuff about them. I'm gonna try. Hopefully, there's this bloke called Max Langmaid. He's a young rallycross driver, and he lives quite local to me. And I want to try and do some more recordings with his rallycross car.
Nice.
So he's won a lot of events, and now he's into a higher class of rallycross where he's racing this twin turbo Mini Cooper. Ooh. And yeah, I really want to record that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be doing that on the Easter weekend if I can secure a media pass. So yeah, I'm really hoping to do that and record some of Max's car and just experiment more with car recordings, because I love cars, but I've not done enough car recordings to be able to share how to do car recordings. Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the things that I could probably let people know about and that I've got planned. But
Yeah, be
yeah, that's
careful
one of
where
the
you
things
put the microphones, because I've heard that they can melt.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. And plus, he's going to be racing, so
Yes.
I don't want to put microphones everywhere and get him kicked out of the race.
Yes.
So I've got to be careful.
Yeah. But that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably. I mean, for cars at least, it's depending on where you put them, you can have so many different sounds. And I've at least heard from people who worked on movies that depending on what you need, you can give cars personality, of course, and then you change your microphone position according to the character of the car, which is interesting.
Yeah.
To say the least. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that'll be a really fun one. I think. Yeah, I bought a second-hand DPA 4061 for that.
Nice.
So that can be sacrificed because it's not new.
The sacrificial microphone, yeah.
Yeah.
We've heard of those before, yes. Amazing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a video out for that, right?
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Okay, so if you want to see more of Ollie, go follow him, Rare Find Sound Design on YouTube. Really cool videos. Not too long and not too short, which I also really like. It's not like an hour-long video, but it's also enough to like really enjoy the recordings and the views. So, yeah. Then thanks again for being on the show, and I wish you a lovely rest of your day.
Yeah, cheers for having me, and yourself.
Looking for more audio-related podcasts to listen to? We're part of the Audio Podcast Alliance, featuring a hand-picked selection of the very best podcasts about sound. Be sure to hear the latest episodes from our friends in the community at audiopodcast.org. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting on patreon.com/fieldandfoley or ko-fi.com/fieldandfoley, where you gain early access to episodes in lossless format and can submit questions for our guests. Thank you for listening.